Good morning, everyone. My name is Laura Figueroa León. In this opportunity, I would like to share with you the evaluation tool that I designed. This considering the aspects we've covered in the resources proposed in the previous class regarding the evaluation process within the teaching of foreign languages. Okay, it is important to say that this is an achievement test which usually takes place at the end of the course in order to check how well students have learned. So the way they've got, analyzed, and embraced the topics that we have studied in class. First of all, I would like to point out some details to keep in mind, regarding the context in which the exam could be or actually was implemented. Okay, I currently work with 10th grade students at San Carlos School in Medellin. It's a school from La Salle. In this course, most of my students have got a B1, B2 level. They actually have such a great level, so it's really interesting the way I can work with them in every single class. Here you can appreciate the book on which I base my classes when planning each unit. It is based on this what we set the objectives to be achieved and the progress that is trying to be reached. Now, considering that the exam that is going to be implemented is focused on the contents addressed during the first term, it is important to know the topics that we have covered in the classes so far. So this will allow you to give like a general overview of the work done by students in the classroom. Okay, some of the topics we've covered so far are relationships, social media, modern parents, and dealing with the grammar. I think here we've worked on present and past tenses, some aspects dealing with quantity in order like to show percentages, maybe some phrasal verbs dealing with this context, social media, relationships, and so on. So at the end of this first term, and also through the different strategies used in every single class, students will be able to use new vocabulary and talk about relationships. Considering modern communication technologies, they also will have explored different notions regarding types of family around the world, including positive and not so positive aspects. Now, after having worked with students, the content focused on this context, as I mentioned before, through different activities such as readings, debates, oral presentations, listening comprehension exercises, and so on, how will I make sure they have achieved their learning objectives through the following exam? So here you have the exam heading with the personal information of every single student. Okay, in this first part, as you can see, a listening exercise designed with the item of reordering. So students will be demanded to test their skills in listening comprehension. When choosing the audio, I relied mainly on one of the most addressed topics in class, which was love. In this case, it's about recording dealing with love at first sight. So here students will be will face the way in which people usually express their personal comments and opinions on this topic. Here it is important to say that students master most of the vocabulary implemented in these sentences. However, some of my students struggle with some of these terms, so I will realize those aspects at the end when checking the results. Now, in this second part, in order to take advantage of this information mentioned in the audio, students should summarize with their own words what love at first sight means. So they will be asked at least to construct or make two complete and coherent ideas. Here they could also have the opportunity to express their own opinions in order to add some extra information. In this third part, in order to test the structure of the language, I decided to implement a multiple choice exercise. Here, students will find phrases in which they will be demanded to use most of the structures that we have worked on in previous years, and also that we have reinforced, of course, during this first term, which has to do with present and past tenses, simple present, present perfect, simple past, past perfect, and so on. In this writing exercise, the students will be able to remind much of what was worked on in class during the debates, forums, and oral presentations that we did throughout the period, the first term. Here I would say that they could strengthen their oral expression, but now students will need to reflect this through the writing. In this false or true exercise, as a reading activity, students will test their written comprehension. So previously, they have already been able to work on readings, listening activities related to the parenting styles, the types of family, and parents that we recognize today. Something important to say is that here in this exercise, I'm not only trying to assess their detailed understanding or general understanding, but also their ability to infer and associate information. Later, in this matching exercise, the idea is that students test their understanding of the terms and definitions, meanings they worked on in class. Here, they will be able to contrast and also verify that understanding they made in the process. I have to say that this content was worked on in the different activities in which we covered topics such as types of family, parenting styles, and relationships. Finally, in this last exercise, following the guidelines set by the curriculum for this level at the school where I work, students will demonstrate their abilities to write personal letters describing experiences, feelings, and events, produce written texts using cause and effect sentences, which was worked before in different exercises, construct and reason argument with their views for or against a situation and a specific situation, in this case, the situation that is proposed. And here they are asked for a minimum of 120 words. Well, when deciding this exam, when creating this exam, I took into account the fundamental, let's say the most important aspects that should guide an appropriate exam. So, transparency. Here, students could have access to clear statements, I would say. Validity, so taking into account that this one is an exam that integrates or embraces 3 of the 4 skills commonly worked on in the teaching and learning process of a foreign language, which are listening, reading, writing, and indirectly the use of the language. I consider that in each exercise, in each point, the skill that is intended to be evaluated or tested is specified and evidenced. All this considering and following, of course, the pace of the work, the rhythm of the work done in the classes. Additionally, I consider that the percentage assigned to each point mainly enhances the communicative competence, in which the moments in those where students could demonstrate his abilities, his competences when producing, creating, and interacting with the language are highly encouraged. On the other hand, when it comes to the use of the structure, an aspect that is not that essential, but that is important. So I would say that in this exam, it doesn't have a high recognition, but is even considered when working on this exam. Okay, to sum up, I would like to justify why I didn't take into account the oral production into this exam. And it's because, throughout the classes worked to the date with this school grade, 10th grade, I can say that oral production was greatly reinforced since students normally had to debate, they were demanded to debate, to prepare and make oral presentations addressing most of the topics proposed in the guidebook. And also because I realized that one of their strengths is the oral production. They have such a great fluency, pronunciation, and great abilities when speaking, when expressing their ideas, their emotions. However, some of the aspects that need to be reinforced and polished is writing, which deals with grammar structures and also some verbs, forms, some phrasal verbs, some vocabulary that they maybe need to get in order to extend, to reinforce, and to improve their levels. That is actually really good. So thank you. That would be everything. Thank you.